broadcast live on Google Hangouts on air with an archive on YouTube. It's the place you'll find news, information, commentary on science, engineering, and technology from the past week and beyond, and anything else that interests us from inside our tiny little human brains. As ever, my name is John Gardner, and to help us out on this road to knowledge, I have one colleague this week. Say hello, chap, Richard Smith.
Hello, chap.
You should have said hello, chap, Richard Smith. Anyway.
Hello, chap, Richard Smith.
There you go. Anyway, so it's been a heck of a long time, to be honest. It's been nearly a month, really, I think.
What's that? It's just been circumstances of different people's movements, hasn't it, basically?
Yeah, it's been people have been busy and life has got in the way, and then we basically had such a good time with Andy on the last one. We decided to start looking for guests, which we're still looking for. And I put feelers out, and I got some people who I thought were possibles, and then they cancelled. And
that was a great episode. Has it been popular? Do you know? Have you had a look?
Yeah, pretty much by all of Andy's mates, by the looks of things. So anybody,
that's the kind of viewership we would like to.
That's true. There's a lot of EV people who have been reading it and looking at it. Reading it? It's not a book. And looking at it, and the one thing I don't have stats on at the moment is the podcasting bits of it. So because at the moment all the podcasts, all the MP3 files are all logged into S3 buckets, and I've got no real stats.
All right, I didn't know that. Right,
I did not know that. I've got it. Yeah, I've got a whole entire build. So all I just put in the name of the file, and it creates everything. Creates the XML file, uploads it all to an S3 bucket. Anyway,
that's nice.
Yes, I spent a lot of time on that, actually. Anyway, so what we're going to do is something. It's probably something quick this time, but it's a topic that that I'm quite interested in. But it was an article that you spotted, and well, you're going to tell us. It's about energy, really.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of a moment that caught me by surprise because I had no idea we're this close. So I know we've been a bit pessimistic, weren't we, on the show, you and I, about the one where the UK government made the decision to slash subsidies towards solar, and can you remember that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
we're kind of quite down on it. So this was quite a positive story, given that. I know this is a different energy; it's wind, but it's the fact that because of the unseasonable weather in Scotland last weekend, they were achieving some average wind speeds of 150 mile an hour, which caused chaos. It wasn't great, but it did make a watermark moment happen for Scotland, which was its wind production alone outstripped its consumption. So it was 106% in the positive in terms of energy balance, and that was wind.
Yeah, so this is the August the 7th. It was the first time on record that wind turbines are generating more electricity in Scotland. I think
for the entirety of
that day. Now this comes on the back of the other story that I think we covered, which was that there was a day in or the entire month of May for UK energy was powered more by renewables than coal.
Yeah,
I think so.
Coal's kind of in decline anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, and also, so what I thought, well, that is an impressive. It's an impressive stat that the whole of Scotland was powered for that day.
I mean, what's really good for them though, that means that in theory they're already not too far away from. I know they're a small country, so we should probably say that. So this in numbers, they consumed 37,200 megawatts, and the wind turbines created 39,500 megawatts. So it was more, but it was an extremely windy day, and they are quite a small country when taken by themselves.
But I mean, it was kind of inevitable that this was going to happen in Scotland first, because first off, that between the third quarter 2014 and the third quarter 2015 in Scotland, the wind generation was up 27.1%, and hydro was up 31.4%. So they were definitely having that trend. And also, when you look at the makeup of energy, and this is from stats from 2014, if you take the UK as a whole, renewables was 19% and nuclear was 19%, with coal 31, gas 30. But in Scotland, the renewables was already 38%. So, and nuclear 33, and coal and gas was much lower than in the UK as the rest of the UK. So
I was just looking there for some numbers to put it in context. Sorry to interrupt you, but the London population is 8.6 million versus Scotland's population of 5.2, and it was a Sunday and it was a non-working, so therefore it was a non-working day. So the numbers have to be taken into context, don't they? They're not that close to it.
That's true. That's true. But then I started looking and thinking, well, what else? What other countries have renewable energy, and what's their mix?
Yeah, so Denmark were in the press last year, weren't they?
I know Denmark and I know Norway. Obviously, Norway are a country. I guess the population is bigger than Scotland. There's more people in Norway, but in terms of an independent country, and now we've got Brexit under. Is
Norway 8 million or something like that? Is it a similar population to London, basically?
Yeah, I think so. But they have oil, but they have gone big guns on the renewables. So at the moment, they have 98.4% of their percentage of total generation of power is renewable.
Amazing. And who would have guessed Norway would be that sensible?
Well, all the Scandi countries are, because Sweden's quite high up as well.
But you know what it is? I think it's not just like a trendy, nice environmental thing to do. I think it's also clever, and I think anyone with an energy strategy that is not forward facing, I mean, you're just going to get left behind, aren't you? What's the point?
It's true. It's true. Now, this lies. There's a lot of, because obviously, people in the UK voted for Brexit. Not us, I have to say, but population that voted did vote, and therefore at some point we will leave the EU. So then we will become very much like Iceland and Norway in that the fact that we probably be in the EEA, the European Economic Area.
Yeah.
And so then we'll. We should have taken this into account a long time ago, but we would need to start being more self-sufficient with our energy.
Presumably the deal with Iceland will be now quite favourable. Did you hear about the deal to build the pipeline to them for energy, for an even potentially energy exchange? Well, that might be more likely to happen now, mightn't it?
Yeah, we did discuss this on the Brexit issue, and their economic federation that has Iceland and Norway and Liechtenstein, I believe, the powerhouse of Liechtenstein. Well, they obviously want us to join because that would be great for them, and so, like you say, economic talks and transfer of energy and power and various things with Iceland and Norway would be high on their agenda. Some stuff,
the EU, although it's true that the EU sort of outperforms the rest of the world on stuff like this, it is still slow and bureaucratic. Would you agree? So there's still potential if we make the right decisions. As much as we're both pretty much doom and gloom, overall, there's still potential for these kind of things to actually us to make really big progress. What I worry about is that we'll have the freedom, yes, we could make the deals with people like Iceland, yes, but if our government's doing things like cutting subsidies to solar, it doesn't make me any more optimistic that we'll be better off outside of Europe when we're making that kind of decision.
Yeah, but I've always been worried about not just this government, but subsequent previous governments, about their long-term vision. And we're talking country infrastructure, power, rail, the lot. They just seem to have a very small. It's basically an election to election view rather than this is
that's the problem. You would think
20 years.
Yeah. Do you not think though we might have more if we had a system that wasn't so changeable like that, in cycles like that, where you're very much you only care about 4 or 8 years. Do you not think if that system was something different, that we might be now investing in like a next generation or a current generation nuclear technology that might be really, really expensive up front, but actually will pay for itself quite considerably? And, the freedom you get from not being tied to Russia and other big oil and gas providers could be like quite powerful politically when we're on our own. You not think we should be kind of doing things like that, even if it's expensive?
Oh, absolutely. We should. I mean, we should. I don't think there's an excuse for it. There should be an independent, non-political party-based
Yeah.
infrastructure office that needs to project into 50 years rather than 5 years.
I know we've kind of gone a bit political, but it does strike me as mad that, on the back of Brexit, rather than investing in nuclear power, we're investing in nuclear weapons, and this is Great Britain 2016. But
you say that we're going a bit political, but sometimes I don't think you can avoid it in things like this. It's politics is naturally inbred into these topics because of short-sightedness. But anyway, but we have. You're right. We have gone a bit political. So let's get back on track. So reading around the topic a little bit, I decided that I thought I would have a look and see what other countries have a huge renewable percentage of their energy mix is renewables. So I knew about Norway, and Norway is quite high up.
Denmark like I said, next.
98.4%. Now, actually, Denmark is probably not as high as you think. It's about 50%.
Yeah.
But it's considerably higher than us. Would you want to get, and Sweden's 60%. Do you want to guess what the United Kingdom, a good old UK mix of?
Right. Well, by renewables, do we mean nuclear or not?
No, we're not talking nuclear. In this case, I
think renewables we are quite high, but I think a large portion of that's nuclear, isn't it?
Yeah. So we're well. This is a stat from 2012. So in 2012 it was 12%.
Oh, okay.
So fairly low.
And we offer 25 then.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the surprising ones. The African countries. There's a lot of African countries who, like Lesotho, right? Lesotho in southern Africa, 100% renewable.
It's tiny and it gets a lot of sunshine.
But not solar. It's actually hydro.
Oh, right, okay.
Which is interesting.
Mozambique, hydro as in something in the sea, or as in a dam?
Well, no, because it's landlocked, isn't it? So it must be a river and a dam or something. Yeah. So
well, that's the thing. If you put all the money into one dam, it's a bit like, have you ever played SimCity?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Like that. You've got that kind of money, and you've got that fixed size. A dam actually is a decent investment, isn't it? So
that's true.
It doesn't make a study for anything bigger than Newcastle. You wouldn't have thought, though.
And here's the other things. I think this is probably they're quite high because of their geographical area, and they've got a big river that they could dam. Because Mozambique's the same. You would think, wow, well, it's Africa. There's going to be a lot of sun, nice bright skies. Get your photovoltaic cells in, but no, they're actually Mozambique, Zambia, Democratic Republic of Congo, all hydro.
I would have thought, is hydro one that's probably the least environmental of the environmental renewables? I mean,
it's possible, I guess. No, well, probably biomass is, I would say.
Yeah,
probably. But that so we're really quite far down. We're beaten by most of Africa, New Zealand, North Korea. We have less renewable energy than North Korea.
Wow. Okay. What are they doing?
Again, that's hydro. So they've got it's very hill. If you know the geography of North Korea, there's a huge top section which goes onto China is very, very hilly. So I presume there's a lot of.
It's relatively small though, isn't it? Is it bigger than us?
No, it's not big. I don't think it's bigger than us, but it's not as small as you think.
Is it like quite
big landmass? But Canada are bigger. Canada's got more renewable. Actually, Canada have got a nice split of renewables between hydro, biomass, wind, and photovoltaics. As have
25 million, by the way.
who have
North
what,
Korea.
North Korea. That's
South Korea's got 50, so obviously the together they've got 75.
Peninsula. Is that what we were going for?
Yeah.
But here's the big one. Here's the one that I just would not believe. We have less renewable energy, or we did in 2012 anyway, than United States. Now everybody would assume that the United States is the big oil nation, but they've got huge photovoltaic farms now. So that's interesting. But like I say, the only thing I could find with across the board.
I think nuclear. It's right that nuclear's in there for me, though. Personally, I know there's controversy around it, but to me, it
is all about the mix, though, isn't it? You have to have we've had lovely sunny days. Now, I appreciate that we've got a pretty fairly decent power grid, and we can distribute power across the country. So because we've got because we're an island, and because we've got level areas and very, very highland areas, then highland areas, of course, you put your dams at the top. Like there's one in Wales called Blaenau Ffestiniog, and it's a reservoir at the top of a mountain, and at times when we have rapid increase in power need, they basically just let the water out at the top and it flows down, and it covers that spike. Right. And then what they do is they pump it back up to the top on low peak electricity during night.
Right.
But that is really
it's
just
kind of like a
pressure valve.
It's quite clever, and it's a storage system for energy, basically.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and
actually, an analog storage system.
I went, and that's been around for a long time, because I remember going there with my parents when I was sort of like 12 or 13. We went on holiday there, and we went round there. Now, I was interested in it then, but I would pay even more attention if I went back there now.
Yeah, it is quite clever, that, isn't it, when you think about it?
Yeah. So
when the energy overnight is surplus anyway, you put that into pumping the water uphill.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But if you had a more precision energy generation system across the grid, you probably wouldn't need to do something.
Oh yeah, and obviously that's not that's not a lot of sustained power. That is just for like when everybody goes in the World Cup to make the cups of tea. That's when they open the gates, and that's when it covers that peak.
If you get like a World Cup final or something like that at an odd time, or
well then you obviously the plan like that. But a lot of our coal stuff is now being decommissioned, like you said before. And we are running more and more on gas, which we're importing. So one would assume that, and here's the thing that's even more worrying. If we don't go down the nuclear route, and I'm not specifically a nuclear evangelist in any way, shape, or form, but I do realize there's a need for a genuine mix, because, we've had a reason. Everybody would complain that we've had a really bad summer. We haven't. We've had a pretty good summer, actually. It's been quite a constant heat. But where I work, we have a big N-Power office, and there's 2 wind turbines within the premises, and they're the vertical ones. No, the horizontal ones, the ones that go up rather than out.
Yeah.
And for huge amounts of the day, that they're not turning, because it's been very, very still. So you can't. Now, obviously, if you put them out at sea, then it's pretty much constant. And there's obviously the Highland hydroelectric, which is you're always going to have dams and stuff up there. But you do need that mix. And one of the things that with Theresa May, the current situation of the Hinkley Point nuclear power station, is that she's again. It's like there must have been enough of planning and documentation on this going forward, so that the need for every new prime minister is well, all you have to do is read that document, and that's all. It's all in there. You don't have to make another decision, and because that's what she seems like she's doing.
Yeah.
So either make a decision or one way or the other, but don't push it back further, because every time you push it back further, something's not being built, and our resources are going to get to a state where we're going to get strained.
Do you think it's a mix though? Do you think it's a mix though? Like, do you not think, like, if you took the UK, do you not think if we invested and strengthened our relationship with China in that sense, so leaving the politics and the morality of doing that aside, but if you strengthen your relationship with China and you invested in next generation power stations, nuclear ones, do you not think we could potentially get something there with enough investment where we secure the UK's energy future with one?
But it's the speed of how, because nuclear power stations take a hell of a long time to build.
Yeah. You need to for the next 25 years, possibly, but after that, I mean, do you not think the long game for the UK and also just mankind has got to be nuclear, because the finite capacity, if your energy demands go up at an exponential rate, which all signs point to, then wind looks like it could do the deal now and for a while, but eventually it's not going to.
But then you have, right. I think we have to be specific whether we say nuclear fission or nuclear fusion.
Yeah.
So yes, nuclear is definitely the way forward, but only one of those is the way forward, because one of those we have to work out where we're going to store all the waste.
Yeah. But I'm sure that if we keep it somewhere temporarily and then work out how we can safely fire it into the sun or fire it into space or whatever, then that's probably fine to do, I would have thought. What could go wrong with that?
Well, a rocket could explode on the launch pad. Yeah. Apart from that, no problems.
Yeah, we just need a space elevator. I wouldn't get one of those as well, though.
Actually, one of the last things I was gonna talk about was a story, because I'm genuinely interested about getting some photovoltaic cells on our house.
Yeah, they're not that good of a deal now, though, are they? Unless you buy them yourself.
They're not that good of a deal, but if the calculations worked out, this is I still thought we could do it. Up until now, I've always been told that it would never work on our house because we're east-west facing rather than south-north facing. And right. I was always told that you have to put for the greatest power, you have to put them on a south-facing roof, because right. You get the most current generated from a south-facing roof. And so I've never considered it. However, I read an article, and I don't know whether, I'm pretty sure that I didn't come across this, but on the Wondrous stuff. But there's new theory now. Certainly in Germany. In Germany, the proliferation of photovoltaic cells on houses is considerably more than the UK, and it's always been, conventional wisdom, that we whack them on south-facing roofs, and that's pretty. All installers would do that. But there's a professor Professor Rolf Gottschlag of, funnily enough, Loughborough University. So he's a German, but he's working over here, and he's basically saying that Germany has too many solar panels, so that on sunny days, and because they're all south-facing, the grid gets disrupted on lunch times. It has basically so much power generated by these south-facing photovoltaic cells that the grid has to almost, it has a peak flood of power, and it has to almost give the power away.
You would have thought there would be a way just not to accept it into the system, wouldn't you?
Well, apparently there isn't.
Discharge it.
Burn a light.
Well, you would have thought there'd be some way to redirect.
Have a array of incandescent bulbs and just turn them on.
I don't know, just thermally into some concrete or something.
The problem is that, of course, if you have the most power at midday, most people are at work at midday. So most people are at home during the evening. Now, if you put your photovoltaic cells on a west-facing roof, that's when it's getting most light towards the afternoon. So the new wisdom is put them on an east. So split your cells, some on east, some on west. You'll get a more constant source of power throughout the day.
All right.
And
So at least less peak power, but more evenly distributed
yeah,
power, which is what
yeah.
a
So
what a grid
actually,
wants.
yeah, exactly. You want it constant. So that's the new.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But
So
presumably you'd want a mix of those as well, because you'd want some peak power, I guess, would you?
yeah, I guess it's still more efficient per kilowatt to have it on the south facing because you get more.
Is the rise of Tesla having any? Is there an effort going on to look at energy storage as a solution? Because that seems to be something that's like kind of lagging behind now.
Well, you
Doesn't it?
covered the Tesla battery, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, this is that just the scaling up thing? Is it just a case of eventually we'll have storage mechanisms, or I guess we're missing Ross's input on this, but or is there a physics challenge there where the storage just you can't store it?
Well, I guess it's the same as it's the battery capacitor thing, isn't it? Really, I mean, when Andy was on, he was saying that essentially they don't store their energy in a battery because you can't get it in quick enough.
Right.
So when they actually need electricity is when you're braking and it wants to push it in for regenerative braking and then push it out again as soon as you start accelerating again. Well, a battery can't really do it that quick, so it uses capacitors.
Right.
But in a house, I guess you would trickle charge it during the day and store it for when you're at home at night. So I guess it's all down to battery technology and.
You'd think even with the battery though I'm totally out of my depth here, but you would think there would be a way to just, as long as you've got enough capacity in it, you could just flood an amount through the system so that you could get that instant on thing.
Well, it's all there. I mean, the fact that you've got electric cars going around with big battery packs in, that is essentially what you want. In fact, you can. Here's the thing. I have seen somebody who has got in a Leaf, and I think this is on YouTube. I saw this. They've got a Nissan Leaf. Use it as a daily commute and everything. And then one day, their village where they were in, their power went out, and they managed to power loads of appliances in the house off their Leaf.
How? What? Just reversed it by running it?
You can get a box that you don't run it. Well, you just use it as a battery. So you just you get like well, it'd be like an inverter, won't it? So it'd be DC to AC, and then you can just plug in extensions and stuff.
Who needs a Jenny when you've got one of those?
Absolutely. So if you charged it up during the day, which he did because he was at work, so it was on charge all day.
It's like having a very safe home Jenny then.
Yeah, and a few lights in the fridge and stuff like that is nothing to a Leaf because the battery capacity is pretty large.
Right. Okay.
So again,
you could run a server room off it, and you wouldn't need.
You could run a server room.
Yeah. UPS.
And there's also
a UPS system.
Here's another thing. This is weird as well. I mean, it entirely negates the whole purpose of having the electric car. But there's also another video on YouTube which I have watched, where somebody actually has a generator, a portable generator, and plugs it in and charges up his Leaf from a portable generator.
Right.
But he
defeats the environmental purpose.
It does, but he says that sometimes he goes camping, and there isn't a point around, so he uses it.
It can be done, right?
It can be done, yeah. It just gives him enough to get to the next point. But
if you had a house, if you had a holiday home or whatever it was out in the middle of nowhere, you wouldn't necessarily have to say, it's no good for the Leaf. You could actually just buy a Jenny, put it there.
You could do that.
Fine to do occasionally, presumably. It's like you're still not driving a petrol car around all the time, so.
No, that is true. But so yeah, the two things that I am looking at the moment are photovoltaic cells and an electric car. So these are the calculations I have to make for myself. But it is, like you said, because the government are in their infinite wisdom are doing what I would consider the most stupid thing and taking all the subsidies away. It's becoming less cost effective, I would say. Yeah. Not entirely. I mean, the electric car is probably is still cost effective, but putting the solar panels on.
We're 21% nuclear, by the way. I'll just look that up. So globally, did you see any of the figures about what wind power is globally? So
No.
the capacity extended beyond 16% in 2014, which is 370,000 megawatts. And there's some theories around what the actual capacity might be. Did you read that at all?
No.
Okay, so there's the consensus is that the amount of power available from the wind is considerably more than present human use. So when I said before about nuclear, you'd have to look to nuclear. Actually, if you were clever and you managed to reduce input temporarily, if you manage to increase output temporarily, decrease output, then you'd have a solution with the wind for quite a while. But as with most things, it's contested. So the Max Planck Institute in Germany carried out a top-down calculation on how much wind energy there is overall. Solar radiation income is where they look first. And they reckon it was somewhere between 18 and 68 terawatts. So would be fine with all of that. Another study was done which estimated 80 terawatts, but it's since been, both of those studies have been since contradicted by a Harvard University study who think the estimates are too high by a factor of about 4.
Is this power utilization across?
How much energy you could get from wind overall
from wind?
if you were efficient enough? So if everyone concentrated on that and took it to its efficient maximum, they reckon there would be more than enough to power our current and short-term future demands. But it's the problem with nationhood, isn't it? We don't work as a one collaborative thing.
That is it. I was just thinking that it's just, wouldn't it be great if we had a sort of a grid across the world? Because there's obviously countries where photovoltaics would be perfect because it's hot all the time.
It's the kind of challenge that if you are completely joined up and you had a consensus, or the scientific consensus ruled, and there was no competing companies within it, which obviously we'll never have that, and not in our lifetimes anyway. But
well, we'd never get that.
Yeah, you might never get that.
While humans actually exist.
Well, I don't know. I think it will come. I think it will come to the point in the distant future where it's kind of collaborate or die. And I think at that point, if you collaborate, then you'll just continue to collaborate.
Is this when we get taken over by the simians?
Yeah, but that's we're getting into philosophy now, aren't we? Really, but I think energy is one of those things where eventually the whole theory about next generation civilizations, you kind of eventually have to harness the power of the sun to take it to that next level, because the energy demands, they think, may go exponentially up. So the more clever stuff you want to do, I mean, look at the energy demands of the Large Hadron Collider, which is a pretty simple experiment, really, isn't it?
That actually uses more than the entire city that it's next to, doesn't it, or something
exactly,
like that?
Yeah. And it's not doing a lot, it's crashing a few.
No, yes. Damned atoms.
So if you want to do like more of that kind of stuff, which we should do, then you kind of need, even for like scientific and humanistic aims, you need more energy. It's not just a lot of people think, oh well, what you're really saying there is we're not going to be more efficient in what we do. I think even if we are, we'll still want to do that type of stuff, won't we? We'll still want to do efficient space travel and stuff like that, which we've got to crack that problem.
Yeah, and I mean, efficient space travel is not tying a little module on the front of a rocket, because we have to find something other than rockets to get off this.
But it's whatever we find is going to come down to energy generation and the efficient use of energy, isn't it? Yeah. Those are the laws of physics, and those two things are going to dictate it. So even if we like waste less and use less energy domestically, we're still going to want to do more high energy things, aren't we, to progress?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I think ultimately we'll need nuclear, but it is good that wind's doing so well, mind you, and that
I think it is, and I think I'd like to see more small wind turbines on housing estates and stuff. I know farmers started to use them a lot now on fields, but they
Yeah,
have.
and I think aesthetically the argument against it for those reasons goes away, doesn't it? Because people get.
I don't understand this. I think a wind turbine is quite a graceful thing.
Well, except for I do know people who live in, beautiful Durham countryside where previously they weren't there and now they're there. So in the sense of them being an alien object that kind of distorts your nostalgia for the area and how it looked historically.
And what this is beyond NIMBYism, is it?
Well, I mean, even if you think the thing looks fine, it's the fact that it does completely change the landscape. I think a lot of the argument is that the landscape is different with them, whether you like them or not. So if you accept that, if you happen not to like them, then that's going to be a very negative thing for you, isn't it? And that you can't escape them if they're in a place like that.
But you do kind of have to put them somewhere, and you put them in the place where there's most wind, and normally that's in a.
You can see how the people there might.
Oh, I can understand, but it's like you have the solutions are there, but we have to. I mean, we could. I guess you could put them all out in the ocean.
I mean, I would happily see the subsidies to farmers for that sort of thing outstrip the frankly BS subsidies that they've reintroduced now for farmers having livestock on their land. So yeah. I just think, if you did that, you would solve the problem, wouldn't you? Because they'd be handsomely compensated and the country would get a forward-thinking solution. Whereas instead, the money's going on something that has no future, is a complete waste of money and ethically debatable. So I just think if we want to do it alone, we need to get clever about that sort of stuff.
We do. Well, I think that is a perfect place to end this discussion, and I quite enjoy that actually. Energy supply is one of my interests. So anything like discussions like that.
It's kind of a frustration that the science and technology is at a really interesting point, but the appetite for it isn't. It's just a bit sad, that, isn't it?
It is true. But is that something that we have to promote? Is that a sea change that we have to promote in the people, and the people will define the future?
Yeah, definitely.
Not just in industry, but I mean actually, like, we have to make the average Joe understand why we need.
That are done. Wind is the favourite one, and it gets 80% public support or something like that. So wind's not controversial.
No, don't think so. Maybe we just have to say, well, if you don't invest in this now, you'll not be able to play your Xbox.
Yeah, play Pokemon Go on the go.
Yeah, hell yes. Who's going to charge your phone? Right, well, that's good. That's the end of episode 68 of The Wonder of Stuff. Now, I did suggest at the start of this episode that we are looking for guests, and that is still the case. We are looking for people who are involved or know somebody who is involved or has an interest in science, engineering, or technology. It may be something that they've got a hobby in. It may be something that they work in. Anything like that. Any topic.
And we mean engineering technology in the loosest sense of the word. So if you're involved in any kind of engineering or technology, we find that interesting.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people who I've been talking to is like, oh, well, you wouldn't be interested in this, but you would be surprised what people are interested in.
Yeah.
It may be boring and humdrum to you, but these people, us included, have never heard this before. So
also the beauty of YouTube is that you can find interesting, in-depth things about quite, niche subject matters, and we're not objecting to having that on our show. We're quite happy to embrace that.
No, we embrace the niche.
Yeah.
If you look at our viewing figures, you'll see that.
But it'll be extremely useful to a very small amount of people.
Absolutely, yes, and interesting. So if you do want to just think about something that you might suggest that we want to cover and get you on and discuss it. And don't worry, it doesn't have to be. I think some people have said, oh, well, I've got nothing to, I can't just talk about something. And it's all right, but don't worry. We've got questions. We'll come up with questions and we'll make it more of a conversation. So it's not just you all the time, if that is the way you want it.
We just want to have a big crack.
Yeah, we just want to have a bit of a conversation, a bit of a talk, learn something new on a Sunday evening. So please don't be embarrassed. Get in touch. The email address is wonderofstuff@gmail.com. We've all got access to the mailbox. We've obviously got the website, wonderofstuff.com, but we've also got the Twitter, so you can do a direct message with us on @wonderofstuff. And come on, please. Just, if you've got something that you're interested in talking about, come in. We'll have you on. We'll have a good crack. Who knows? It may take off. And you may find a load of people who are interested in the subject, and you may become rich beyond your wildest dreams. So there you go. We can promise that. Well, sort of.
You can promise that may happen.
There's a potential that could possibly happen at some point, maybe.
99% of the time, it works 1% of the time.
That's the one. So why not give it a shout? If you know somebody or you yourself are interested, just drop us a line. Anyway, that's it for episode 68. So next time, we'll try and not leave it so long. But until next time, goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.